Hello and good morning, everyone. This is your host, Jackson, and welcome to our program, Biblical Echoes. We welcome you with warm hearts, and today it's such an honor to have you all listening to this radio program. As we debut our first episode for this program that is going with the name of Biblical Narratives, it's actually going to be an introduction. Later down the road, we're going to dive into the detailed studies of how Christian ethics work. We're going to talk about Bible and how it is going to be imposed in our lives today. So I'm going to go ahead and first introduce our beautiful and most privileged guest today that we have. Then we're going to go ahead and introduce the program, what we're going to cover today, and we're going to further dive into it. So today, as we proceed with our program, we actually got one of the most renowned persons in the Christian studies, and she is someone who has done BTH and seminary in Christian studies. Her name is RIMLIA RAFIQUE. So thank you so much for having us over here, and thank you so much for being here. Ms. RIMLIA, it's such an honor to have you today.
Thank you so much, Jackson. It actually means a lot being here for you and talking about what I already know and what I learned in the years that I spent in BTH degree.
Beautiful,
yeah.
Thank you. And we also have our second guest over here, Mr. YAROON KHURRAM, and he's also one of the most renowned person when it comes to Christian ethics. He is social activist. He's also a worshiper and someone who has developed his life in God's work. So we welcome you over here as well, Mr. YAROON. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me here, and it's always been a pleasure to talk about God and His ministry and all the works he has done. So I'm more than glad to be here and talk about Him.
Lovely, thank you. All right, so let's just go ahead and proceed with our program today. So today's program, as I mentioned in the start, is gonna be about the introduction to biblical narratives. We're gonna go about how the significant biblical stories are very much relevant in today's life as well. I'm gonna go ahead and ask a few questions from our guest today. We're gonna cover about how the moral ethical lessons are somewhat related to what we have always studied in Bible, how Bible has such a contemporary influence on the cultural and historical context, how it helps us in the interfaith dialogue, literally in the artistic influence, and also in lastly, we're going to cover about the personal transformation. So I would like one of our guests, if any of you may just go ahead and share about how you guys think about it whenever you hear the statement that any of the major biblical event being relatable to today's era. So any major biblical event that you think is still valid in today's point of view, and how we should be talking about it, how we should be taking an influence from that story. So if any of you would like to share about it.
Yaroon, would you like me to proceed with that?
Sure.
All right. So if we take it from the start, from the beginning, if we talk about Genesis and how God created all the heaven and earth, and how He transformed everything into things that we see today, and how He made mountains just by saying it.
Right.
But when we see creation, we see that among those 7 days, He actually took an influence, He actually took an initiative and formed man. When we say formed, He didn't say a man to be made. He took mud in His hands and He transformed the face and all the facial features right exactly how, not exactly we can say, but how is his features go. You know, as we say, apni shabi par banaya. Shabi is actually the mirror. It's not exactly how he looks like. So we could say that He loved man enough that He chose to create him. And it actually fascinates me how whatever happened in that Garden of Eden, whatever He imposed right after the woman did the sin, He actually told Adam to be the caretaker.
Right.
And how He said that it's you who I have created all of this stuff, and you are responsible for all of this. You are responsible to take care of it, to take care of nature, to nurture everything, and to work for its betterment, take care of the trees and animals and stuff. So we can relate it to the conservation of biodiversity. We could say बायोडाइवर्सिटी किस तरह से हम अपने इर्द गिर्द का ख्याल रख सकते हैं, हमें रखना चाहिए, how it is our responsibility. So yeah.
So it actually is directing us to the point that we have to take care of our environment. This is something that is reminding me of one more story, the story of Noah. Like how the story actually contributes a lot to this certain subject, but just highlighting one thing that you mentioned, how Noah was so mindful and how God directed him that he has to take with him 2 species to the ark so that they could save that biodiversity as well. So it's basically right from the start as well, and if we move a further step ahead, it's still pointing to the same direction, and this is something that is being imposed in our daily life as well, that human has got a responsibility, that is to take care of the environment, that is to take care of the species around him as well. So it's actually a pretty valid point. And to be very honest, this is something that is as I mentioned in the starting point, the first point, it should be embedded in our moral and ethical lessons as well. So taking care of our surroundings is something that we need to be taking care of, and it should be embedded in our moral senses as well. So let's talk about a little bit about the cultural context, how the biblical stories actually relate to the cultural context as well that is present in today's era. So if you guys have anything that you would like to share about that.
Yeah, I just wanted to add one more thing with the RIMLIA thing, that when the beginning happened, God gave us the authority to take care of everything. He gave us the authority to take care of the animals and the seas and the shores and everything. Whatever was in the Eden garden, God gave us the authority to take care of those things. And I think that things still implement in today's life as well. We all are given the responsibilities, maybe not to take care of the pets we have, but take care of the life we are with, the families we are with, the work we are doing, the studies we are doing. I mean, these are the responsibilities that we need to take care, and these are the moral responsibilities. For example, we have to take care of the society, and we have to take care of our towns. We have to, make it clean. We don't need to do things that can hurt the environment, that can hurt the pets and animals that are there. So these are the responsibilities we need to take. And obviously, biblical context is so broad and so wide to know these things. I mean, if someone who knows the Bible, they know that we have so many responsibilities, and we need to be there for those responsibilities.
Right. And just talking about the responsibilities, there's something that was also ringing a bell for me, and that is, when it comes to responsibility, it's not just the responsibility to take care of the surroundings, it's actually taking care of yourself as well. If we go ahead and listen to some podcasts from Dr. Jordan Peterson, we will be able to get the awareness that there is one simple thing that he's always highlighting about, that is responsibility. And he says that your responsibility starts off from literally making your bed. You don't have to first go ahead and get to the social activities, like we need to talk about the climate change, we need to talk about how everything is working all around the globe. Our responsibility basically starts from the fact that we need to first make our bed. That is the first thing that
you start from the little things, and then you go to the wider things and broad things. So that's how it goes.
This is something that also helps you out, get yourself free from that marginalized and caged mind as well. And this is something that was hitting me when I was just reading about the story of liberation in Exodus as well yesterday, like how the Israelites were basically, they were all in that captivity, and how the liberty was given to them, not by the fact that they simply just they were sitting over there in the garden. They actually strive for it. They showed some responsibility, that we want justice with ourselves. So this is something that highlights
I was just reading a book yesterday, and it was a biblical book. I don't remember the title, but the book says that when you want it to change, God helps you to change.
Lovely.
And it says that when they were in Egypt, they wanted to change, they wanted to escape. So God helped them to change. God helped them to escape. So whenever we wanted to change, and whenever we wanted to go escape the prison that we are, for example, it's our mind. Our mind is a prison, and when someone who is struggling with it, if he wanted to escape it, we have to ask God to help us, and He will obviously deliver us.
That's so true. If you would like to add something.
Not exactly to the story itself, but I'm also, remembering a story from David and Goliath.
Mm-hmm.
And before I talk about that, one of the favorite most is Jeremiah himself.
Right.
He's actually called the crying one, रोने वाला नबी हम कहते हैं उसे, because it is wide and clear in the Bible itself that how he cried and cried for his nation.
Right.
After Israelites were kept again in captivity, this time more serious and more threatening, he cried and cried in front of God. And how it tells us today that in these difficult times, in these times of inflation, I could say, and I'm going to be honest, just तरह से mobsters, they are treating Christians and even other minorities. I think the story actually needs to be told right now कि हमें किस तरह कौम परस्ती करनी है, how we need to take stand for our community. And it's not bad. I wouldn't say it's bad taking a step toward conserving your own community. आप अपने लोगों के लिए अगर step उठाते हो, इसमें कोई बुरी बात नहीं है.
Right.
How people say कि आप side ले रहे हो, ये ऐसे हो रहा है वैसे. Of course, marriage is something that is kept constant. वो constant है. I cannot even change. No one can change that. But when it comes to pointing out fingers that you are siding with a Christian, oh no, that's not okay.
Right.
But I'll say that is okay, because it begins from the beginning, right from the start. And Jeremiah himself took an initiative to cry and cry and cry for his nation, to cry in front of God, and that crying didn't go in vain.
Right.
True. God heard his prayers, and he heard his prayers in positivity, and he actually appreciated Jeremiah, that I loved how you cried for your nation.
Right.
And this is why I'm going to deliver them from their captivity, and I am going to deliver them for whatever they are suffering. And this time I'm saying this was very serious from back in the times when it was with Moses. They were being kept and they were being taken away from their homes. Those children and wives of them and daughters, and being horrors being done to them.
Right.
And it was Jeremiah who helped them take away from all their sufferings and pains and all of that was going on.
So I think it got back to the saying that if your heart is on right place, God will make a path for you in the wilderness as well.
True.
Definitely.
So it goes to
Yeah.
that saying.
Right. So this is something like a more of a biblical context. Like in today's era, if we go ahead and put this into the context, who do you think holds this responsibility to take care of all of this?
I think everyone,
True.
not one person has this responsibility. Like I said, dua. Okay, let's not take it towards spirituality itself, but I'd say that when you have a connection with the Eternal One, when you have a connection, you pray, right? And you have that faith. And faith doesn't always have to be related to spirituality. See, you can have faith in people. When we say, I truly believe in you, that truly believe can be a synonym of faith.
Right.
And it is responsibility of every single one to take a step, an initiative, because 1 से 11 और 11 से 22 और 22 से 33 इस तरह से steps are taken,
Right.
and you cannot stop the cycle when it started, क्योंकि इसको फिर रोकना मुश्किल हो जाता है.
Yeah. So like I would put this into the context like it imposes on each one of us. It's the responsibility of each one of us to take care of each other. So this is
Definitely.
something like if he is in problem, if he's suffering, this is my responsibility to take him out of that problem.
Definitely,
And
yeah.
this is something that is making me recall one of the major events in Bible as well. You might have heard about the story of the Good Samaritan.
Definitely, well, yeah,
Yeah.
one of my favorites.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so this is something that it actually illustrates the compassionate action of the Samaritan towards a person with whom the whole society was doing prejudice.
Yeah, and the Good Samaritan didn't even have the connection that
Yeah.
he didn't have to do that. Come on, there's a man lying on the street, and he could have gone. Nobody saw that.
Yeah, I think I need to add one more thing. I do agree with both of you that we are the responsibility. I mean, we are responsible for each other. But I think there's one more thing that I wanted to add, that the spiritual leaders that we have, they are responsible as well. I mean, the background that I'm coming from, I have seen so many leaders, but they are so-called leaders. They do not know what to do with their ministry. They do not know what to do with their people. They do not know how to tell them that this is the right way and you need to go there.
Right.
And I think if they are holding their book and coming out and saying that, oh, this is the way, then you need to be very authentic with that. You need to tell that what is the right way. There are so many ways, but there is only one right way, and you need to tell your people that what is the right way. And I wanted to add that maybe we do need somewhat of a good spiritual leaders who could make our way to the place where we know that we are coming close to the God, or where we know that we are getting close to the things that we need to do according to the biblical context.
I think this is something that takes us back again. Like the thing that we mentioned in the start, responsibility starts from the little step. So
exactly, it does.
I am very much appreciating the fact, and I very much agree to the fact that you have mentioned that this is a responsibility of our spiritual leaders and the higher authorities. But again, it starts from within us.
I do agree that. I do agree that. But when it's come to the bigger point, I mean, I know that I have the abilities. I have a limited abilities. If someone who is on hierarchy on a different level than me, and people are looking up at him or her, then he needs to be righteous. Then he needs to tell us what is the right way. Because if he isn't not doing that, then there's no point to following him.
Right. And to be very honest, the reason I was trying to relate it with what I've said it because of this story, the story of Good Samaritan. It's because the societal prejudice that was there, they were higher authorities who were passing by, they were not looking at their wounded
exactly
person.
That's what I'm telling
that you. One person who actually had a lower standard in the society was the one who was helping them and him out as well. So this is something that it starts from us,
and I think that is what's happening today as well. I mean, if you see the spiritual leaders, they're not doing anything, but the individuals themselves are doing so much work. I mean, if you see, I mean, I know myself that no one has helped me when I needed the help. I mean, I didn't got any help from any spiritual leader. Even if I asked them, they didn't know the most of the things. So where I got the help from? Maybe from the Bible, maybe from the YouTube. As you said, Jordan Peterson, the people who talk about things that we need to know.
Right.
That's what I'm trying to tell.
Okay, so because we are coming close to our ending, I would actually love to have a little bit of context of your background as well, because as I heard from you all that both of you are artists as well. RIMLIA is a writer and Mr. Yaroon is actually a singer. So how do you relate this thing to the biblical context? Like, is there something that you have taken out of Bible to polish your skills, like writing and singing?
Well, I really want to talk about it. If you could say, if you're asking for inspiration, so no, I can say that I took it directly from the Bible itself. But I'd love to talk about the fact that how King David wrote.
Right.
He's called the father of music. He's the one who introduced instruments, and he's the one who introduced music and how you could dance and how you could enjoy writing.
Right.
He wrote poetry most, but even if I talk about the book of King Solomon's book, what do we call that?
Songs of Songs?
Yeah. No, not Song of Songs. That's actually music, But when we talk about Imsal.
Yeah, all right.
Proverbs, yeah. I'm sorry, just
it's
my
okay.
mind.
I was actually, because Songs of Songs do have some beautiful poetry. It's not just about singing. It's actually something more relevant to the writing as well.
To poetry.
Poetry.
But I'm more into writing proses. So I'm going to talk about the book of Proverbs. That's the book of wisdom. I cannot even compete to that. But wow, do I love that book. I wanted to read the Bible right from the start, but every time I do that, I come back, and full and fair and square, I have read that book like 4 times, and I cannot stop falling in love with that. How beautifully everything is written, how everything is related to each other. I remember that verse that beauty is not better than, something that shines in the nose of the pig. You know how
Beautiful.
how
Beautiful.
it relates the
Yeah.
metaphors and the context. And that's the part where the motivation came in me that I have to write something like this. That is the reason I'm more into metaphoric writing, and that is the reason how I'm able to relate other things with the realities of my life and others' life, and how actually things are going. I definitely say that I took a lot of motivation and inspiration from that book, and how the Bible actually instilled the art of writing in me.
Lovely.
And that's how
Yeah,
I clicked
this is
into
something
that.
this is something that gives a very beautiful subject. But as we shorten time, so I would love to hear about in the upcoming episodes. Let's just move
Sure.
on to our second guest.
Yeah, actually, when I started doing music, my father told me that music is something that is very close to God, and God loves those who do music. And I had no idea what he was talking about, and I thought, okay, that's a good thing. But when I started doing worship, and I felt the presence of God in me, I felt like there was someone whose hands on my shoulder and telling me that you're doing good, and that was the moment that changed me. And even if you see in the biblical context, we see that God has all his angels who are always chanting his name and saying, and there are instruments that are playing, and we see the David who God has never said that someone is close to my heart but David.
Because he's a worshipper.
Because he was a
lovely.
worshipper, and because he was a worshipper, and I love that. And whatever I'm doing, I have totally changed my genre to the secular music, to now to the spiritual music. I'm totally doing most of the time I'm doing spiritual music, and I love that because I feel that nothing feels better than praying and worshiping God, because it gives you the pleasure that no one can give you. It gives you the peace. It gives you the peace that you feel, this is so good. I mean, you can sing anything. You can sing anything from him, and it is always good. So it has changed my life recently, and I feel very liberated with this.
Beautiful. All right, so as we proceed to the end of the program, in a few words, I would like you both to share how Bible has transformed your lives. So I'm going to proceed with myself first, that how it has changed my life, and keeping it into the context of what we started off from, how the major biblical events are still active in our daily life. And if I talk about myself, I'm someone who has been, my life has been a roller coaster ever since the start. I have been someone who was a quite timid person. I have been, if I put it in the most straight manner, I have been bullied a lot, because I was the one who always used to study with the students who were always older than me. So if I was like 6, people were like 9 or maybe 10. So I always had this age gap. But there was one thing in the story, and this Bible story, that always strengthened me, and that is the story of David and Goliath. That is something that's always, enriches your heart to understand the context in our daily life as well. Like, howsoever huge the person in front of you is, if you have God with you, you can do everything. This is one of my favorite verses as well. Like, through God, everything is possible. So this is something that made my life much easier to understand. Like, if a 12 years old David can defeat a 9 feet Goliath, then everything is possible for me as well. This was one of the most turning point in my life as well.
That's beautiful.
That's lovely. I like to say the story of faith. Bible is filled with it. And when Joshua was scared, you remember that part where they had to conquer that land, the gifted land.
Yeah.
And he was scared. He was scared because they were a lot. They were thousands and thousands of men, and they were just a handful of people, Israelites.
Yeah.
But there is a beautiful saying, and I love that verse in which God says, "Have I not commanded you, be courageous and take a step?
That's one of my favorites.
I will never leave you." And how God shows authority. मैंने बताया नहीं है तुझे?
I'll never abandon
Just
and
take a
forsake
step.
you. That's
I will
true.
never abandon and forsake you.
That's true.
And how it says how that now that Yaroon is sitting beside me, I can actually take the वो जो गीत है, जैसे मैं मूसा के साथ साथ था वैसे ही तेरे भी साथ रहूँगा. This is one of my favorites from when since I was young, and since I got the idea of how God actually has a role in our lives. And this actually went in me, and that is one of my favorite verses. That's how I gained my courage, because I was a very darpoke person, I'd you say.
Right.
But this verse always strengthens me. So yeah,
Right.
I'll
So
say that.
lovely. That's such a beautiful thing.
Thank you.
Mr. Yaroon, if you might have to share a few words for how your life transformed, like you mentioned a couple of minutes ago, how things have transformed you.
Yeah.
So
I wanted to give shout out to my girl because she has changed my life a lot. I have never read anything. I have never read any Bible or any stories before, but I was never a spiritual guy. But recently I have started reading from the New Testament from the start, and I have came to the Corinthians, and I have been reading consistently. And
Yeah.
I mean, just reading the words of God, reading the word of Jesus Christ has given me so much peace. And I mean, we all have problems, we all have things in our worries in our life. But when you read the word of God, you see that whatever you are going through, Christ is with you, and that's the most liberating thing you can have in your life.
Yeah.
beautiful.
Definitely.
And that's the end point of everything.
That's the end.
You didn't need to worry
Lovely.
about anything. That's it.
All right, that was actually something very beautiful to hear about.
Mm.
Okay, first of all, before we proceed and conclude this whole program that we have today, so I would like to thank both of you for coming today. It was lovely talking to you. It was lovely having your ideas and your context over the topic that we discussed today.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you so much, both of you, and thank you all for listening to us, for being on this radio program. I hope that you might be looking forward to having the second episode as well. We'll be proceeding with the second episode in the upcoming days, and we are very much hopeful that you guys will be staying tuned in, and we'll meet you guys in the next episode. And until then, you have a beautiful rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you.